Voices with Sistah Sci-Fi, and this is Sistah Sci-Fi Wind Down Wednesday, where we work hard to make Wednesday your new favorite day of the week. So if you are on our email newsletter, you know that today we will be joined by Eden Royce discussing their latest novella, Psychopomp Circumstance. It's an adult themed book rich with Southern Gothic charm. The main character, Phee, will win you over. And if you have the pleasure of immersive reading it like I did, you will realize that Bonnie Turpin, our favorite from Justina Ireland's Dread Nation, reads the audiobook, which feels so theme appropriate. Today, my lovely co-host is none other than Veronica G. Henry, who is the author of The Foreign Exchange and several more books, all available on SistahScifi.com. So I'm excited. I will be watching the chat, so if you have questions, you can drop them in the chat. And while we wait for Veronica and Eden to join, let me know how your Wednesday has been, how your Wednesday's been, how your last couple of weeks have been in the chat. Okay, so I did that. And Veronica, I'm accepting your request. You see my laptop for a second. There's a lot going on. Hey, awesome. Oh, yay. It works so seamlessly. Like the past couple of weeks, it's been like so weird. I'm like, what
really?
Yeah, it's like today. I had to restart and all that kind of. It's good to see you. It's been a minute.
You too. Yes.
Yay. And I'm like, I had to drop off books for an event, and like I was doing that like literally up until like 5 minutes ago, and I was like, I'm gonna make it. I'm gonna make it on time. It's gonna be amazing. But it was a bit touch and go for a second. So I'm like, we're here. Oh, sorry.
You made it.
We made it. Okay. And I see Eden is on the line. We might actually start a bit early. Okay. And for those of you who want to learn more about Psychopomp Circumstance, I'm dropping the link on the chat. And then also we have this amazing discussion. Okay. How have you been?
I've been good. It was so good to see you out in Seattle.
Oh my God, I know. Like, to be honest, this summer was kind of like, I made it to the end of September and I was like, whew. But yeah, it was super good to see you at Worldcon. Worldcon was like, Eden, it says that you're unable to join. So 2 things. You probably already know this, but please make sure that you're joining on your mobile phone, so not your iPad, definitely not your laptop. 2, make sure you're using the latest Instagram app, so the app, not the website or something like that, on your mobile phone. And 3, it works a little bit better if you're using your Wi-Fi and not your mobile data. So if you're an answer yes to all those things, then we'll figure out what else could be happening. But usually that's step 1 in the triage. And so yeah, it was a lot. It was a lot. It was
a busy summer. It's just like the whole year went by so ridiculously fast. I remember looking forward to going, and then I'm like, okay, that was 2 months ago. So it's been crazy. But
yes. Yeah. Okay. So I think Eden may have left and came back. Where else were you? Oh, yay!
Who did we see? Okay, almost.
Yeah, and Eden, you just have to. There's a little it looks like a Sankofa set of arrows. Just press that, and it'll turn your camera around. I think maybe that's what's happening.
I think you're right. Oh my gosh.
Yes, and I just want to. I see Dr. Katrina Parker in the chats. Hey, Dr. Parker. Dr. Parker wrote one of my 2 favorite autobiographies about Octavia Butler. They both came out this year, so I just want to shout her out. Yeah. So Veronica was just letting me know how she feels. Eden, how are you?
I'm doing well, and yourself? It is late here, so, forgive me if I end up being a little bit punchy or whatever, but it's about midnight for me.
Thank you so much for being, because I was like, oh yeah, it's like 8 p.m. I'm like, oh no, you in UK, you like way, way ahead.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
She's already like tomorrow.
Yes, I'm living in the future. It is almost tomorrow here. In three minutes it will be tomorrow.
Tell us what the future's like. Tell us what tomorrow's like. I'm here for it. Um,
Me too.
Tomorrow's pretty quiet right now.
so far, it's quiet. Okay, good to know. Yay! Well, this has been the smoothest, like, except for the camera falling, it's a smoothest start to a Sistah Sci-Fi Wind Down Wednesday. In a couple weeks, I was telling Veronica that. I'm so happy you're here. And yeah, so before we dive into the questions, which I'm really excited about, and just give it up for us for not only being on time, but being a little early. That's a big one for me. So, yay! Um, why don't we do a round of introductions? Eden, we'll start with you since you're the guest.
Afraid you were going to say you were going to start with me. Um, okay, I never know what to say about myself in introductions. Hi, everyone. My name's Eden Royce. I am an author, and I can now say screenwriter, from Charleston, South Carolina. I am now living in Southeast England, though, hence the lateness and all of that. I write for the children's, young adult, and adult markets. I also write short stories and long form fiction in novellas and in novels.
Yay.
I think that's about it.
Yay.
Left off a couple of award wins, but that's all right. We're gonna go forward.
Oh, okay. I should have said award-winning author and screenwriter. So we'll say that.
There we go.
Thank you. Good looking out, Ronnie. Thank you.
All right. Hi, everybody. I am Veronica G. Henry. I am the author of 5 novels, with 6 on the way, The People's Library. I am originally from Brooklyn, New York, but I now live in the South in Greenville, South Carolina. And my latest 2 books were The Canopy Keepers and A Breathless Sky. And the next coming out in February is The People's Library.
Yay. And we have the Canopy Keepers in stock. But no, I have Breakfast Sky in stock, but I didn't have Canopy Keepers, which is why. Then I was like, let me just do foreign exchange because it'd be weird to have book 2 of a 6. Anyway.
I should have mentioned my books in my bio. Sorry about that.
Yes.
Oops.
We'll talk about them. Yeah. But yeah, we should definitely. But yeah, I think this is a good time to jump into the questions. So in researching for this, I read your interview with Nerd Daily, and then it's also in I think it was like an acknowledgments or about the book or something like that about the author. So what inspired Psychopomp Circumstance is that your grandmother named you as the entrusted you in planning her homegoing when you were 8. So she knew that you were going to be the one. How did that personal experience teach you about death and the traditions that we see in Psychopomp Circumstance?
That experience really shaped a lot of not only the book, but my sense of responsibility and duty to the final planning for loved ones. Like you were saying in those articles, I was 8 years old when my grandmother pulled me aside and said, I want to show you my death papers. I want you to know where they are in case whenever it happens, you will know because your mother's not going to be able to do this, and I'm going to need you to do this. And she knew not only me well enough, but she knew my mother well enough to go, yeah, this is not going to be something that she's going to be able to handle. So thankfully, I had 20 years to prepare for that time. It didn't happen quickly after I found out about it, but I felt at once honored to be named that person, but also there was a certain, I guess, an underlying worry that's just sort of simmered in the background sometimes of when the time comes, will I be able to do all of this? And it turned out when my grandmother did pass away, she was absolutely right that my mother was not in a place to really handle that the way that my grandmother wanted it handled. And I knew what the duty was. I knew where the paperwork was. I knew the process. And it was just a matter of once I found out she'd passed away, I said, I am headed for her bedroom in that file folder and just going straight from there with those instructions and with that template so that I knew that I was doing everything that she wanted me to do. And just remembering that process and how I sort of had to put my own grieving aside to get this done. And I had to also go outside of myself to go, this is the decision. And anybody in the family that wasn't happy with the decision, oh well. And it was really a pivotal moment for me and a source of pride that everything got done the way that she wanted it done. And that's really the impetus for Psychopomp, making sure that the duty that you've accepted is done the way the deceased would have wanted it done.
Mm-hmm. 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 Love that. Love that. I will pop in with a question. So our protagonist is Phaedra St. Margaret, and her story really begins when she learns of the death of her Aunt Cleo. And against her mother's wishes, she decides to and agrees to pomp for her. Can you talk a little bit about the history of pomping and what that means, especially during that Reconstruction era in the South?
Yes, I use the term pomp to mean basically taking care of everything associated with the deceased. So that's sort of the term that I've used within the book to kind of uh, all of the overarching duties from contacting people to planning to choosing what the deceased is going to wear, what their final resting place would be, all of that incorporated. And to answer your question, I need to go back a little bit before Reconstruction. In the Gullah community, when our ancestors were enslaved, when one of us died in the fields, we were not allowed to stop and tend to the body and take care of the body. And we were forced to continue working. And a lot of times the buzzards got there before we did.
Mm-hmm.
So at the end of the day, when the work was finally done, was when we were able to finally stop and try and take care of that person. And a lot of times the body was in no fit state to be taken care of the way we would have wanted it taken care of. And that was the impetus for what's called the buzzard lope, which is a historical Gullah Geechee dance in funeral rite, where you would make a circle and there would be one person, usually a male, in the center who would portray in the dance as the buzzard. And in that circle, he would move, getting closer and closer to usually a cloth or a handkerchief on the ground, eventually picking it up, symbolizing the spirit of the deceased person.
Mm-hmm.
And coming from that history, once we got to the Reconstruction, where some of us were free people and able to start our own businesses, being able to be morticians and funeral directors, making sure that Black bodies were being taken care of and treated with kindness, treated with respect in death, even if possibly not in life. And that's where we are with Psychopomp. We have a protagonist who's a free Black woman in the South who's grown up very coddled, very soft. She's been to these homegoing services. She's never planned anything. Her mother is a very controlling person who feels like this is the path I want my daughter to be on. I want her to be a wife, eventually having children. I want her to be an upstanding member of society like I am. And in doing that, she doesn't want Phee to see a lot of this. She doesn't want her to try her hand at doing this planning, which is not only an important job, it's very prestigious in New Charleston. If you're able to plan a funeral and have everything go off without a hitch, it's seen as something to be lauded. And it's something to be proud of. You know, that question that's asked in the book is a real question. Who did the body? And it's a question that I even hear when I go to services in Charleston for my family. But I'm from a family where there were only one of two places in Charleston at the time that really Black people went to. So, you know, you were probably either a Fieldings or a Dorothy's family. And we were a Fieldings family at the time. So that's where all of that came from. It's come from that history of our bodies not being taken care of and protected, and finally being able to do something about it ourselves. And the continuation of that is Phee going, it doesn't really matter what my aunt did in the past. I really want her to be able to be put to rest in a way that honors what she is and who she was.
Love that.
What was particularly fascinating to me is there's the being lauded if it went well, but then the potential imprisonment if it went badly. And I was like, whoa, is that?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, honestly, I wanted it to be that important because I wanted this society to recognize that this hasn't always been the way. We haven't always had the opportunity to treat our people the way we want to. You know, 1860s, there were a lot of people that either were still enslaved or hadn't been told that enslavement ended and were still operating the way that they had. You know, there's that work song that some people probably still are aware of and still know, that's throw me anywhere in that old field. And it was what was done to our bodies if we happened to die whilst working. It was move the body, throw it in the field. Eventually the buzzards would come. And that's something that this society in New Charleston is not accepting of. And if you can't recognize that history of what used to be done to us, then yes, they're going to put you under the jail for that kind of thing.
Got it. Oh, so beautiful.
When you talk about our setting, New Charleston, I loved it. I always love your settings because they're so rich. But with New Charleston and also with Horizon, are they based on any real world cities, or is that all just something that you kind of came up with?
Well, New Charleston is definitely based on Charleston, you know, my hometown. But with my own fantasy bent on top of it, there is a city that is, for the most part, flooded almost 100% of the time. There are wooden esplanades set up all over the city so that people can walk without getting their clothing and shoes wet, because the clothing of the time is really the clothing that was worn during Reconstruction. Some people call it the Gilded Age, some people call it the Victorian era, depending on where you're from. So lots of long skirts and boots and shirtwaists and things like that. in the book, there's this part where Phee is talking about her mother, and for all of her problems, she's very fashion forward and told her daughter that because of her figure, she doesn't have to wear the bustle that's so popular. She's naturally endowed in a way that makes the clothes fit that way without needing anything extra. So the clothing is very much the same. And one of the things that I wanted to put in there to make it feel more fantasy, you've got the hippocampi instead of horses. So you have these creatures that are pulling carriages that are part horse, part fish, essentially, because that's just, it's almost an underwater city, but it's just a constantly flooded city. And when creating Horizon, I just wanted something so different from New Charleston, a place where it was still magical, but not a flashy, showy magic. There's not a flooded city. Everything is dry. Everything is paved, which is such a change from New Charleston. And it's something that Phee really remembers of, I wonder what it was like for my aunt to come here. I don't even see any water anywhere. How did she come to a place so unusual, so different, and manage to create a city to help people, to help them heal, to help them be ready to move on? Because Horizon isn't for everyone a place to stay. It's a place to stop.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it made me think of Horizon. For some reason, made me think of the Freetowns of there, even though it's more of a stop. So this brings us to a perfect segue. Eden, if you would love to read an excerpt, now would be a great time.
Yes.
And I love the
to.
passage where Phee is traveling from New Charleston to Horizon, and she's talking to, you gave us the name of her carriage driver,
Abbott.
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 Yeah.
I am happy to read that. Let's see. Okay. Here's my excerpt. If it's okay, I want to start with the section where there's a little bit of mentioning of what Fee's mother's packed for her in her lunch. Is that where you'd like me to start?
Yes.
On the bench seat next to her, Phee set out a jar of mixed pickled vegetables, assorted crackers, and spicy benny seed spread, along with a few soft wheat biscuits, salted honey butter, and scuppernong jelly. A handkerchief with her mother's initials embroidered on it lay at the bottom of the basket. Phee opened it to reveal a handful of wax paper wrapped peanut candies, her favorite. A soft smile formed, and she rewrapped the handkerchief, tucking the treats into her bag for later. When she offered Abbott to share her meal, he shyly accepted, taking a small amount of the food, then retreating to lean against a supporting pillar of the way station's platform, out of the rain but a respectable distance from his client. Phee watched the rain as they ate. Have you ever arranged a homegoing, Abbott? No, miss. Lot stronger people in my family do that. He shrugged and bit a pickled baby carrot with awkward but surprising delicacy. It's difficult to imagine a person stronger than you, Abbott. Even with his stooped posture, he was a physically large man with broad-knuckled hands. Strength in the mind, miss. To deal with arranging and things, all while your own heart broke? Don't know I got that in me. He brushed crumbs off his hands and leaned up off the pillar. Thank the magician my wife is strong where I ain't so much. I'm glad to hear you've made a good match, Abbott. There were no other patrons at the way station. Even the station master himself was putting up a sign he was taking luncheon. It was peaceful here, sitting under cover while watching and listening to the rain slack up. The bays seemed to be enjoying themselves, snorting to each other while pulling up mouthfuls of grass to chew. Alone but not, This space Abbott had given her while still being present was blissful. Phee smoothed back a coil of hair that had become puffy with the moisture in the air and laughed to herself, letting her mind wander a bit. Picturing herself as a benevolent queen of a castle was a particular favorite, as was taking over Pop's business one day. A more distant fantasy was attending the ball once more, not as a guest seeking a suitable marriage, but as a patron of the event. Once all the girls were on the dance floor, she would announce that she had opportunities for employ for each and every one of them, if they so chose. Then she would exit the building, leaving stunned faces and a waft of French perfume in her wake. Behind her, she would hear the shuffle of silk slippers descending the stairs to follow her. She would not look back. One of the horses whinnied, jolting Phee out of her thoughts. She realized Abbott was waiting for instruction. She cleared her throat. How much longer will we be on the roads until we arrive? If we keep leisurely, about another 5 hours, miss. Well, we'd better get back to it. Phee packed away the uneaten portions of food into her basket and stood to dust off her traveling skirt. With a sharp nod, she indicated her readiness to resume their journey. Once she'd settled in again, they continued on their way, the gait of the horses bringing a briskness to the journey that the campy hadn't. Unable to resist any longer, Phee removed one of the peanut candies from the handkerchief. Since she was a little thing, she'd always loved these sweet, salty, chewy treats. She unwrapped one, already anticipating the pleasure of it. Mama made them so rarely. Phee saw it for what it was, the only olive branch her mother felt she could extend. She placed the small square in her mouth and leaned back on the carriage seat. The candy melted slowly, releasing the flavors of roasted sugar cane, vanilla bean, and a touch of sea salt. Phee worked one of the peanuts loose from the candy square and crunched it on her back teeth. Along with the peanut candy, the gentle rocking of the carriage soothed her. This was her first trip alone, and she wondered if it would have been a good idea to have some company. If she'd asked Desmond, he would have accompanied her. She let out an unladylike snort. Eagerly accompanied her, she was sure. Was Desmond such a horrible choice of life mate? He was from a good family, as her father had oh so casually mentioned. Handsome and full of potential. Rumors of his behavior were just that, rumors. If they'd been said about anyone else, she would have paid them no mind at all. Maybe, when she returned home, she would contact him, extend an invitation for afternoon coffee. As the candy melted away, Phee rallied and sat up. It felt as though they'd been traveling forever, and Phee wondered if it was some juvenile sense of time she held on to, where each passing minute in reaching a destination felt like an hour. Abbott had mentioned strength in the mind as necessary for planning a homegoing. Not intelligence, but an ability to endure your own pain while working for the good of another. Phee had confidence in her quickness of mind, but had never had cause to test her mind's strength. Aside from the schism that parted Aunt Cleo from the family, Phee had not endured many trials in life, and she couldn't help but worry if she had come up short with such an important event. It would be a public embarrassment to the family if she failed, and if she had to run back to Rosemount, her chances of finding a suitable life mate would be greatly diminished due to the scandal. Phee fanned herself with her right hand, suddenly overwarm. She consulted the watch pin attached to the lapel of her jacket and found time had passed normally, and it was her eagerness that dragged out in front of her like the drying road. She attended her posture, straightening her back and lifting her chin. Strength of mind, indeed. Sunset accompanied her carriage into town, turning the sky and its paintbrush clouds a range of sherbet colors. Through the lowered windows, cool air swirled in, heralding dusk's arrival. A wooden sign marked the entrance where the road narrowed into the main drag. The micronity of horizon, all are welcome. Phee dragged in a relieved breath. she was here.
So much richness. And there's always, yeah, and always a additional layer of insight of reading a scene, like for a second time, you're like, oh, that's what the author did there. I understand now.
You just feel like you're there. It's like I could taste the candy. It's just also visceral, and that's what I love about Eden's work. If I may, I want to go back to the beginning of that. One of the things that struck me was how overbearing her mother was, but also just those little gestures, like packing her something to eat, packing even not only just regular food, but her favorite candies. So that tells us that she loves Phee, right? This is her daughter. She loves her, and she wants what's best for her. And even if at that time that meant a husband and a family, it came from a place of love. But talk to us a little bit about overbearing mothers in general, and if both her mother and Aunt Cleo were inspired by any real life matriarchs.
Fee's mother does want what's best for her. She doesn't always go about it in the right way, so she has a tendency to tell instead of consult. That's so funny that you mentioned the peanut candy. You've read the book, so you know that the peanut candy isn't what it seems to be. I don't want to give anybody any spoilers, but she sees Fee's reluctance to get involved with Desmond, to really start a courtship in general, as her being still immature and wanting to be frivolous and not contribute. And as someone who's closer to the way that Black people were treated during enslavement, even though they're from a free family, her mother is very, very conscious that they have reached a certain level in society, and Phee has a duty, there's that word again, Phee has a duty to continue this. She has a duty to find a good husband, give him good children, raise them to be good members of society. And that's her mindset. And her sister, Cleo, has a very different mindset, who has always thought that Fee's creativity and interest in things was positive, and always wanted to sort of encourage her to do things and be frivolous if she wanted to be frivolous. She was still a kid at the time. And Phee sees that difference in her mom and her sister. And she gravitates, her mom and her mom's sister. And Phee gravitates toward her aunt because her aunt has a lifestyle that is more intriguing and is more engaging, instead of being this mother who she feels is keeping her under her thumb. So for me, to answer your question regarding what sort of matriarchs did I have in my family, I think that I had family members that were a mix of both of those. My grandmother's sister was very like Aunt Cleo, and my grandmother had much more probably stringent ideas of what I should be doing and spending my time as a kid. And I learned to cook at a really young age, things like that, that she felt like were important life skills that you needed to learn. And her older sister was more of the, let that child be. Let her do what she's going to do. Let her read her book or go outside or do whatever. And I think I drew from both of those women in my life, who, while they weren't absolutes all the time, because there were pretty much times where my grandmother would stick up for my need to be away from the house, or my need to be a kid, or my need to do other things. It was just a matter of who at the time felt like this duty this job, this chore was important and more important than what I personally wanted to do, which as a kid for me was go somewhere in a corner and read my book and be left alone.
Same.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I'm going to actually change the next question.
Oh no, unexpected question.
I can always go back, but I think.
Go ahead.
So I think maybe in a Reddit post, you talked about soft girls can also be brave, right? What is your framework? What is your definition of a soft girl, particularly being like a Black woman in America, where we're always meant to perceived as and required to be very strong, very capable all the time, right? Yeah. So like, and especially with this character like Phee, where we describe her as very coddled and like having a very, particularly for the time, a very privileged life, if I can use the term.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think that applies. I think a privileged life applies. For me, soft girls can mean different things. In Fee's case, it means just what you said. She's been brought up to be a good marriage partner. So she hasn't been brought up necessarily to be someone who does a lot of thinking for herself and making decisions on her own, because she's been taught that you'll eventually get married and you'll have someone to sort of guide you in life. And that has never been what she's wanted to do. And she's gently pushed at those boundaries that her mother has set in place for her, but she's pushed at them to a point where she feels like she's done something, even though she may not get the result that she's wanted. It gives her that satisfaction to go, I said I didn't want to do this. And I made a deal with her that I'm only going to go to these cotillions until I'm this age. And this is my last one. And this is a victory over what my mother wants that I've done. So very gently nudging at those boundaries that have been put in place for her. So when she actually decides to do this pomp on her own against her mother's wishes, it is this huge thing where her mother is absolutely incensed and claps in her face and is horrified that she would commit herself to this like that, because she does feel like you are not the kind of person that can handle a duty like this. You can't do this. I don't know what you're thinking. I am not coming to visit you in jail. If you are happy to have your watery grits and unsweetened tea, then do what you're going to do. I'm not helping you at all.
It was an unsweetened tea.
All. And it's one of those things that sometimes parents do, to try and get your kid back in line. I'm not going to help you with this. You're going to be on your own to do this. Instead of going, why does my kid so desperately want to do this thing? And it's just her own upbringing, which is an upbringing of fear. Look how close she is to chattel slavery and seeing what it's done to people. And she can just go, I feel like sometimes we're a heartbeat away from that. So that's a fear response of, no, you can't do that. I'm going to have to pull you closer and hold you tighter because you need protection. And you need someone to be there who knows what they're doing. And you can stay at my side and I'll guide you through this. Even once you marry, I'll still be there. And even when I was researching this and I was younger, my mother fully expected me to stay at home until I got married. That was very much the expectation in my family. You stay at the family home until you marry and start your own home. And that's very much Fee's mother's idea for that. And Phee is a soft girl in that she has not done that before, and it doesn't mean that she isn't strong, as we see throughout the course, of the story. But it's also a quieter story. There's no sword fighting or, magic duels or any of that sort of stuff. And my platform about soft girls is that they can absolutely carry a story, and they can carry and be the protagonist of an intriguing, fascinating story without fisticuffs or,
Yes.
I don't know, back alley brawls or whatever have you. So this story is something that is poignant, but also gentle in a way. I wanted it to be about death, but I didn't want it to be a story that made death super scary and frightening and trembling in your boots. I wanted it to be something where it was based on fulfilling a duty, but also finding a freedom.
Mm-hmm.
And several people in the story do find that. Mm-hmm. I don't want to give any spoilers.
Yeah. If I could take off on that, when Phee actually leaves home, right? First of all, I was slightly surprised that she did, but I was really excited to go on that journey with her. But when she gets actually to Aunt Cleo's house, I think you do a fantastic job of kind of skirting that line between the creepy, scary house, but then also a house that's obviously a place of comfort, a place that she kind of constructed to surround herself with things that she loved, things that mattered, things that comforted her. So talk about that contrast and also about the house and how you thought about constructing it.
I loved creating this house.
I loved it too.
I am a haunted house girly, a haunted house book. I am usually there with bells on. Mm-hmm. So getting to create this house, which was beautifully haunted, if I can say that.
Yes, perfect.
There's strangeness and there are odd things there. Like walking into any sort of historical home, you can appreciate that this home was of a time and you're in a different space, and it's almost like looking through a window of time. Mm-hmm. When you go back to it. So there's memories that Aunt Cleo has of when she was a little girl that are in the house. Mm-hmm. There are trinkets. There are the bathroom. I wanted to be almost this surreal experience when she goes to take a bath. It's mm-hmm. almost this sort of echo chamber in a way, sort of reflecting her own thoughts and visions and fears back to her as this tub is filling, and it's copper, so it's making this very distinct sound, and it sort of entrances Phee, and she has to kind of snap out of it before she goes to take this bath and sort of wash away the road trip and all of that. But I wanted it to be a place where you get a glimpse of what Aunt Cleo was like, because she doesn't physically appear in the story very much. Mm-hmm. So you only get to see her through the house. Yeah. So I wanted that to be a good picture of being able to show Phee's not only love and duty and commitment to doing this, but the admiration that she had for her aunt and the way that she looks at her things and tries her things on, even though they don't always fit or they are not comfortable or whatever have you. She's fascinated with it. It almost takes her back to being that girl that she was when Aunt Cleo was ostracized from the family. So it's like sort of looking through an adult's things, like, oh, look at this piece of jewelry, or oh, look at this dress. And it just feels sort of special and fancy, like when I get to a certain point, I'll be able to wear this or do this. Yeah. And Phee still has a little bit of that within her because she hasn't been encouraged to necessarily grow up and do for herself. And she takes this sort of inspiration from the house and from what the house decides to show her as a way of going, yeah, I think I can do this. I've committed myself to this, but I'm scared that I can't do it, but I'm clearly going to have to. And the house is alternately encouraging and sort of reflecting back at her what her aunt would have said if she were around to tell her what to do.
Love that. If I may dive in, I have another question. It's about the men in Phee's life. So you have her dad, on one side, and I'll let you talk a little bit about him because I loved him. And there's a spoiler we won't talk about. All I'm going to tell people is just read on and wait to see. But we have her dad, and then we have Cross, who are two very different men, I think, but also share some qualities. So talk a little bit about the men in Phee's life.
I love a strong silent type male character.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I absolutely adore that. And Phee's father and Cross are both men of very few words, but in different ways.
Yes.
Phee's father is married to Phee's mother, and he sort of just is quiet because he extricates himself from situations. Mm-hmm. He's like, here goes my wife again. And he just sort of quietly slips out, goes and does something else because he doesn't want to deal with it. Instead of just using his words at the right time to say something powerful to get his meaning across, which is the type of person that Cross is.
Yes.
He doesn't say much, but he also doesn't leave Phee in the lurch anywhere. Mm-hmm. When it comes to a time where words are important, he will say something. Mm-hmm. But for the most part, he's very action-based. He will just go and do the thing. And I also wanted him to be the kind of person that is patient and waits and recognizes that this is the first time that Phee is doing all of this. He's a mortician. He has been through this many, many times. So he's recognizing that Phee is new at this and she needs time to process and make decisions and be able to sometimes make decisions on things for the first time in her life. Mm-hmm. So he's incredibly patient. He's a pretty quiet guy. But when he does say things like, hopefully this isn't a spoiler, there's a certain scene in the book where he's instructing Phee on how to do something. And it's this very powerful scene where she's intimidated and a little bit afraid. And he's gives her a clear, quiet instruction and a suggestion. And he lets her decide if she's comfortable doing it. Mm-hmm. And he knows on some level that she's going to be good at this and she's going to be fine. But he waits for her to decide if she wants to put herself in that situation. And the father is probably one of the only men that Phee has had a close relationship with before, because she avoids Desmond because he is not a good guy. And it's very well known that he is not a good guy. And coming into meeting someone like Cross in the situation that she's in, she's a little taken aback at first because she thinks, oh, it's a quiet guy, sort of like my dad, but when it comes down to it, I'm going to be on my own to make these decisions. And she's there making the decision of her own accord, but she isn't alone in doing so. So those are the differences that I wanted to make sort of the most clear between her father and Cross. Incidentally, a lot of people have asked me, they're like, is there going to be another book with Phee and Cross? Because we want more of that interaction between the two of them. So we'll see if anybody actually wants that in real life. Maybe that's going to have to go on the to write list as well.
To write list.
I had all sorts of ideas. I'm like, yeah, there's more we need to hear about these two. And
oh, okay. Well, you'll have to share some ideas with me of what you would, what readers might like to see from the two of them. If they end up being the couple that everyone's happening to be shipping right now.
Which that's a perfect tee up to my next question. At the start of Pomp and Circumstance, Phee is literally bobbing and weaving to avoid getting matched up in marriage. When she meets Cross, who we've described as very thoughtful, at times magical, mortician, do you feel that offering Phee a potential like this connection with Cross lessens the reader's perception of Fee's independence?
An excellent question, and it certainly isn't my intention to do that because of the way I've tried to portray Cross. He's not an invasive person. He is someone that is going to hang back and let his physical presence be felt, but not inhibit Phee in any way. So the way I've created him is he's got an incredible amount of patience because of his personality, but also because of the job that he's done for however long he's done it. And it creates this sort of quiet person, but also an observant person who recognizes needs when people aren't always in the best frame of mind to express them. And Phee isn't always in the best frame of mind to express them. And he's used to that. So I want readers to come away with, he's not going to be someone that's going to impede Fee's independence. He's going to make sure that he's there and that she knows he's a resource or a shoulder if that's what she needs. But he's not going to elbow his way into anything. He'll wait to be invited in.
And that's not because he's a vampire. That's a different book.
That's a different thing altogether. That's a different thing altogether. He's magical, but not in a vampiric sort of way. That's another story altogether.
Veronica?
I was looking at the time. I don't know if you want to do the next set, but I do have one more question, and it's just about the actual sitting, the part of the process that they do that night, where she and Cross are there, and then there's visitations from the community of Horizon. I thought that was beautifully written. I thought the metaphor for the people that were there that she helped and the people that came in the shape and form that they came in was outstanding. Maybe talk a little bit about that.
Thank you for that. I appreciate that so much because that was one of my favorite sections to write, but it was also one of the most surreal scenes of the book. And I was fine with that being a little bit dream state like, because we're finishing up the sitting. Everyone has come to visit to pay their respects. There are people in the town that Phee has encountered, and she's encountered them in their human forms. And later on, when they come not in their human forms, I don't think I'm spoiling it too much
Yes.
by saying that. She's, I won't say shocked, because she's sort of in this haze in a way that is, we're coming to the end of this final act of care that she's able to give to her aunt. So spirits are moving, emotions are heightened, and she's, had a few glasses of rum as well. And it's her being at the point of knowing that this is it. Once this is over, we're going to lay my aunt to rest. Mm-hmm. And you're getting to the point where you're finally going to be able to take a breath and go, it's done. I've done it. So when these people come and they visit, and these creatures come and visit, she's making the connections, but it's almost something that is going to hit her a little bit later.
Right.
I remember from planning everything for my grandmother's funeral, and it was just, get it done. Contact this person. Send something to this newspaper. Write this obituary. Choose this. Choose what she's going to wear. Choose the casket. Contact people that you need to come. And you're almost not able to think of yourself at all during that time frame. You are thinking about everybody else's care and well-being. And that was what the memory of doing that is what drove me through writing this book. And when I was doing the edits for this book, my father passed away. And I had to do his homegoing as well. So it was sort of on both ends, at the beginning and at the end of this book, doing both of those services and realizing sort of the magicality that can be woven into a story like this when you look at people coming to pay their respects. Looking at the people and the creatures that help us, and somebody like Phee in the time frame that she's living. She's from a place where there are magical creatures and conjurers, and everything is just spectacular and big and magical, and what I call hand-wavy magic. There's a lot of gesturing and this and that going on. And Horizon has magic, but it's not that kind of magic.
Yes.
And this is the real full time where she sees that magic manifest in front of her without anybody having to do anything to bring it forward. Yeah. And I think that's the part that was so profound for her in the book. Mm-hmm.
Beautifully done.
Hopefully that answers the question. I know I babbled on a little bit there at the end.
No, you did. Isis, did you want to do the this and that, or?
Yes, we will.
Oh gosh, here we go. Okay.
Yeah, so this is.
I'm ready.
For those of you who watched Sistah Sci-Fi Wind Down Wednesday before, this is my second favorite part of the Sistah Sci-Fi Wind Down Wednesday. The first part is everything we've been doing thus far. So with the this or that, I will give you two options, this or that, and you respond rapid fire. You can drop your comment in the chat, and I'll bring them into the conversation. And then if you feel like discussing, we discuss. Sound good?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. The first, this or that, sweet tea or moonshine?
Sweet tea.
That's yeah. It'd be weird if somebody chose sweet tea. Moonshine. It would be weird if somebody chose moonshine. Jazz funeral or church service?
Jazz funeral.
Oh, you also agree? We're all agreed. Okay. So for this next question, I just sometimes when I do like authors, it can be, so I just have to say that the choice you do not choose is still in the universe. It doesn't evaporate. It doesn't disappear. Like everybody's okay. We're all okay. Toni Morrison or Zora Neale Hurston?
I want to pick a third, to be honest.
Option C. Option C.
Option C, J. California Cooper.
Oh, okay, that's a good option C. J. California Cooper. What about you, Veronica?
I have to go with an option C as well. Who would I pick for my option C? That's a good choice. I think my option C is going to be someone more contemporary. Dolan Perkins Valdez.
Ooh, okay, those are great. Writing options. I love it. Sweetgrass or saltwater?
Saltwater.
I'm saltwater person too.
Oh, there's so much like agreement. I mean, I want to say, I don't know. Just okay. I'm sure there'll be some differentiation on this last one. Conjure potion or protective charm?
Protective charm.
I was going to say protection is more important. I'm going to go with the charm.
I'm gonna go with conjure potion just to be different.
Just to be contrary.
But this is great. I had so much fun discussing the book with book. One, I had so much fun having y'all on the live. Thank you for that. Thank you for your craft all around. In case you're wondering, we were discussing Psychopomp Circumstance by Eden Royce. It came out last week, Tuesday?
Yes, last Tuesday, the 21st.
Yes. So beautiful read, beautiful main characters. Veronica G. Henry was our co-host. I have the Foreign Exchange, but Veronica G. Henry has several other titles. Thank you so much for your gift and sharing your craft in the world. It nourishes me so much.
It was my pleasure, absolutely. And I just wanted to say that you can get your signed copy from Sistah Sci-Fi, signed via rose gold book plate.
The book plates are gorgeous.
So if you want to have a signed copy, you can get it exclusively from Sistah Sci-Fi. So there isn't anywhere else that has the signed book plates. So just wanted to insert that in there.
I appreciate that so much.
And thank you so much for inviting me to do this. This was absolutely wonderful. I appreciate you so much.
Thank you, and definitely appreciate all you do for us. Really appreciate it. This was awesome.
Okay, it was my pleasure. Okay, get some rest. Have a good evening, and I'll see y'all in cyberspace or maybe in three-dimensional space soon.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.